So I took the car for a spin one day. On the way back home, I stopped at a stop sign kind of close to the house in the neighborhood here, and the idle would not come back down. It stayed stuck to around 1800 RPM. It's kind of strange. Got back, I figured it's probably a vacuum leak, but I don't really have any vacuum lines on this thing. I only have two, essentially. I got one for the fuel pressure regulator and one for the blow-off valve. The only other vacuum hose I have is actually an AN on the back of the manifold here that goes to the brake booster, and then the actual manifold pressure sensor screws into the manifold. There's no other vacuum lines on the underneath. So I figured it was a vacuum leak. I did the brake clean test. I could not find it. I checked the throttle body. I was like, well, maybe, you know, one of the stopper screw or something was loose and lifted it. Maybe something's hanging up there. Couldn't figure it out. I was like, okay, maybe it's IAC valve. So opened up my parts bin, grabbed an IAC valve, threw it in, same exact problem. So I pulled the front tube off here, decided to check the throttle body, because I had remembered a long time ago seeing a thread where people were breaking throttle bodies with the Greddy style manifold, and that ended up being my issue. Couldn't find the screw at first. I pulled the intake pipe off, checked the intercooler, made sure it wasn't in there. So I pulled the throttle body off, and luckily I found the screw laying down in the bottom of the plenum. So if that would have gone through the motor, that would have been pretty catastrophic. I have seen on rare occasions things go through engines, small bolts or nuts like that, and the engine runs fine afterwards. I'm sure there's some dings in the piston, maybe a little bit of damage like that, but it ends up running fine after the fact. But I've also seen small screws like this go through and actually do some pretty severe damage. So I'm glad it didn't go through. We kind of dodged a bullet on this one. Happy that I found the screw, and it was a simple fix. So the issue with the S13 Greddy style manifold here is throttle cable length and positioning. I repurposed a stock throttle cable mount from, I don't know, one of the plenty manifolds I had laying around. I don't even think it was a Nissan, it might have been. But there's a lot of people that custom make these. They'll place them different places. I think Excessive makes one that actually mounts to the throttle body and has the correct pull. One of the fixes is putting an S14 throttle cable wheel on here, which is what I did. The issue with this is when you're looking at it over here, the factory S13 throttle body actually has the cable running right about here instead of on the outside. So you'd be pulling the throttle straight back from there. What happens is when you step on the throttle really hard, you do have this throttle stop here, but you don't have a throttle stop inside the car. There's a pretty big gap between where the pedal reaches its point here and the pedal stop inside the car. So when you hit that, it actually creates a moment around this point and then puts extra torsion right here. So it kind of bends the shaft here, makes it bow a little bit, and ultimately cracks it. That's kind of the theory. I could see it happening. We've had this on here for, I don't know, probably a good 15 years, and this is the first failure I've had. But that's kind of the theory, and I don't really see it happening, I guess, any other way. Unless you have something set up wrong and it's, you know, when it's slamming shut. It does have a stop here as well, so your butterfly shouldn't be hitting anything on the inside, putting any load on those screws. But this is kind of a known failure with these, but putting the throttle pedal stop in there should alleviate this for the future. This is just temporary. When we update the car, you know, it's going to be the new Bosch drive-by-wire system with the new modern EMS. This is running a Dinosaur standalone on it, but this will get us back on the road for now. but we dodged a bullet. Alright, so here's what I came up with for a pedal stop to try to solve the issue. I just grabbed a foot of plastic stock from Amazon. It's pretty sturdy. I drilled a hole in the back of this. It's held on by just a screw. It's pretty sturdy. Should be alright. Measured it to where when you put the throttle full down, it's going to hit this, and you're going to have like not even a 1/16 of an inch before it actually hits the stop here. So I think it's going to work out.